This month, we're celebrating love and connection, and not just with your Valentine, Galentine, or Palentine. We're talking about investing in all your relationships, including the most important one, the relationship you have with yourself and how you take care of your mind, body, and soul.
Welcome to Rooted and Rising, a podcast by Into the Woods Wellness. I'm Kaitlyn Keneally, coming to you from our nature-inspired sanctuary in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. Grab your tea, get comfortable, and let's dive into real talk that empowers your healing journey.
Alrighty. Just the two of us.
I know, getting back to our roots.
Yeah, no newbies today, but there will be next time. That's how it goes. Today, building off of the fact that it's February, basically coming off of Valentine's, all of the things.
Just the love month.
The month of love. Absolutely. We wanted to talk about relationships.
Yeah, I think that's a good one for this month.
Taking the time to look at relationships, connections, and the power and impact that they have on our wellness. We'll dive more into that because there's so much richness there. But of course, we've got a this or that relationship edition. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. Quality time or words of affirmation?
Ooh. Okay. Quality time for sure. But my first love language is gifts. So for our listeners out there, you got to know how good Jenny is over here. I'm sure you already know that. But did I say it on this podcast or did I say it to you in general where I said, I feel like gifts gets a bad rap because like you could just give me a leaf. So for my birthday in October, one of the gifts that Jenny got me, not only just speaking my love language, but then also listening, she got me a leaf. It's yellow. It's
a yellow era. Absolutely.
But I would say almost just as much as I like gifts, I do like quality time. So that I'm going to say that. What about you?
Yeah, I am definitely a words of affirmation person, but I really truly feel like we need a mixture of both. I need a mixture of both.
Oh, sure.
It's hard to say. And it probably depends what mood I'm in. What am I feeling I need? Do I need words of affirmation or do I need quality time?
Someone could even give me the gift of food. Oh, Kaitlyn, here. I'd be like, thanks.
Especially if you're hangry. Yeah.
I thought of you. Oh, okay. Perfect.
Yeah. It's the little things. Deep conversations or comfortable silence.
I feel like I wobble between because I usually have pretty deep conversations throughout my day.
Yeah.
So like a lot of times at night, it's like that comfortable silence.
Yeah.
So I'll go with comfortable silence. What about you?
I would say there is nothing like being comfortable in silence to know that you're okay, they're okay, and you're just both in your own zone, right? Doing your own thing and you can come back to each other.
Yeah.
But I also really love a good deep conversation. So it's like the first one, a mixture of both depending where I'm at. Yeah. Text it out or talk it out. Face to face.
Face to face, for sure. This is what I tell clients too. I just feel like there's tone. 60% of communication is nonverbal. So hiding behind a screen and doing that, I just feel like it gets interpreted in so many different ways. So yes, I would prefer a face to face.
Yeah.
How about you?
I agree. Sometimes it can feel safer. And I'm putting that in bunny quotes, right? Obviously, if you're just listening to this, you can't see me. So I'm sure when I was younger, texting, I would deep dive and go into all of the things. But as I've gotten older, it's okay. I'll start texting something and then delete it. Nope, we're just going to talk about this later when we can have and if it can happen face to face, phone calls are a bit better. Yeah, completely agree with you there. If we have time, we're going to get further into the episode. But anxious attachment or avoidant attachment?
Back in the day, I would probably say I was an anxious avoidant, a real nice combination.
Yeah.
But I'm probably a little bit more anxious, but definitely more secure now as I've aged and I'm getting gray hairs. I used to get like random ones, but now I'm feeling like
they're coming in a little bit more.
I'm trying to flip it as to wisdom, which means more of a secure attachment.
Exactly.
Yeah. What about you, girly?
I mean, it's the same. I think they call it disorganized. Yeah, I feel when I shut down, jumping into nervous system, I am definitely avoidant. But I have moments where it's, did I do something wrong? And then I get into anxious. And it's like, I didn't do anything wrong. Brain, stop.
Yep. I know.
So it can be a bit of both.
Yeah. And for people that are listening and don't know, I mean, there's different, do I have that in my first book? I can't even remember because it's been a little bit. I feel like I do have attachment style in there and that you can take a quiz on it. But I think from a healing perspective, it's good to see maybe where you've been and what you can work on. So if you don't know what your attachment style is, it's definitely worth looking up.
Yeah. And if we have time, we'll jump into it just a little bit in the episode. Cry it out or hold it together.
Oh my goodness. See, so since my brother passed away, I can cry a lot more now than I've ever been able to. But so prior to that, I probably held it all together. And now I'm probably a mixed combination of it. But I don't enjoy crying.
Sure.
I don't get that euphoric feeling that people get after, or like it was such a sense of relief.
Sure.
It's like it feels like a chore or even heavier. I don't know. But that's me personally. But like people cry in front of me every single day and I have nothing but respect for it.
Absolutely.
And when I'm sitting with patients, I always try to say there's so much courage in that. And I always tell patients too, if I don't make somebody cry during the day, I didn't do my job. Right. So I value it. I think it's an amazing release. It just doesn't have the same effect on me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
I definitely appreciate the feeling of a good cry, like getting it out. I would say I probably hold it in longer than I should at times, trying to hold it together, be strong, all of the things. But depending on what it is, I'll definitely shed some tears. And again, the wisdom of getting older, I've really acknowledged, like, it's okay just to step into it, feel your feelings. And it's not like I'm going into a deep dive, but just okay, taking a little bit of time to feel it, cry it out.
It is. And it can be a beautiful thing. And so I know when I first got into counseling too, you're supposed to keep it all together. And I don't know if I've told you this, I sat on my hands. So I was trying to be a real professional. Oh my gosh, those first people that had me as an intern must have been like, what is wrong with her? So expressive. So sitting on my hands, trying to do it all like textbook wise. But anyway, when it comes to, I lost my train of thought. Why was I telling you about that? Crying.
Holding it together.
Oh yeah. So now a little bit more in session, like just a couple weeks ago, I had someone come in that lost someone to suicide and they're crying in front of, not only like you personally and professionally can feel the pain. And I'm like trying to suck in the tears, but like you can't hold it in some of those moments. But it can be a beautiful experience when they know some of those things too. So I would say pre-pandemic, Kaitlyn probably would have never cried or like thought that you really shouldn't. But now if it's that emotional in session, I think it's important that they see that you're a human being too and that you have experiences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I always struggle though, if I'm in a deep conversation and we're feeling some heavy things, I have a really hard time talking when I'm talking.
Oh, sure.
Squeaky.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm ugly.
Is it?
Okay.
Come on.
I feel like some people look cute or like they've got it together. I feel like it's coming out of every orifice, like even my ears, like gasping for air. There's nothing pretty about it.
But that's being human, right? Yeah. We got to get that stuff out. Emotional check-ins or letting things come up naturally.
Do I prefer someone to do that with me, or how would you describe it?
If you wanted to work on a relationship, or as you're working on relationships, do you prefer regular emotional check-ins or waiting for something to come up naturally?
Probably I'm going to do a mixed bag on this too. I think it's going to depend on the topic, but if somebody is checking in, I feel like I don't get checked in on that often because I have it together. I'm air quoting right now. And so everybody thinks I'm fine, which was the hard part about the grief too, because when you're seen as strong and you can do it all and you can, and you make things happen and you might not necessarily tell everybody how you're feeling all of the time, that people just think that you're okay.
You're okay.
Yeah. So I'd probably appreciate more emotional check-ins, but I respect if it comes up naturally too.
Yeah. I would agree. It's the same. And it's so hard, right? Because we have the, how's it going? Or the initial getting together. How are you doing?
Sure.
Okay. Are you wanting a surface level answer? Are you ready to go deep with me? And usually I feel like there isn't always time to go deep. It's like, I'm okay.
Yep.
But if it's the, how are you really doing?
Sure.
that feels different. That feels like a good emotional check. And there's sometimes space needed for that. All right. Apologizing quickly, or do you prefer to take time to reflect first?
I think my natural instinct, I'm very empathetic. So if I see something and I'm aware of it, I'll definitely apologize in the moment.
Yeah.
But also I move pretty quickly too. And I don't think I always notice things because there's 800 things going on. So I'll take time to reflect. No problem. I have no problem apologizing if I ever hurt anybody's feelings or did something.
Absolutely. I feel like as I've gotten older, getting myself out of it, right? If you've hurt someone, you've hurt someone. So just acknowledging it versus trying to defend yourself. So I've definitely messed that up in the past. So absolutely apologizing quickly is important, but I also will take time to reflect after. Come back to the conversation.
Yeah.
So, well, jumping into our topic of
right.
relationships.
Yes.
We're going to possibly look at romantic partnerships and connections, family, friendships, professional workplace connection, team members, other communities that you might be involved in, whether that's nonprofit that you support or your religion, spiritual side of things. There's so many different relationship dynamics out there.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that stood with me a number of years ago, it's a Esther Perel quote, the quality of your relationships is the quality of your life. And that really resonated with me when I heard it.
Yeah.
But I also, everyone being human and life being life, I also had to laugh because I was thinking about, in preparation for this podcast, like, all right, your first book, Healing is Messy AF. I was like, relationships can be messy AF too.
Yes. Absolutely. They can, but they shape so many different areas of our lives.
They do.
And I think we've done a previous podcast on you, me, and Aaron talking about friendships, seasons. But like friendships are relationships.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we don't think of it. I think what we often think about when we think about relationships is a romantic relationship. Yeah. And that's okay. That comes to your mind. But there's so many other dynamics. Right. And a big thing for me has always really been to look at the top 5 people that you hang out with. Yeah. That's a reflection of yourself. Yeah. And so to make sure that those relationships are really healthy around you too. So
yeah. Absolutely. There's so many different relationships when I think about it in my life. I have a pretty tight circle, but then it can grow pretty quickly. I feel like I'm fortunate to have a lot of close connections, but in different arenas in my life. So when you really break that down and you ask yourself, what does it mean to invest in your relationships, how that impacts your overall well-being and the quality of your life, I came back to, what is a healthy relationship? Like, how do you define that? And I feel like it's so hard because every person is different. Every person has a different need, a different story, different background. So that there really is no template.
It's really going to be based upon your value system. What do you value in a friendship, in a romantic partner, in your family? What role do you play in that? That's where I would start. But I'll tell you what I think a relationship isn't. Like a healthy relationship is not perfection. Yeah. And I think people often get that confused. So my background is also in domestic violence, which I have a whole chapter in my first book on that as well. So we only think of domestic violence as physical, but it's emotional, it's verbal, it's psychological, it's financial. There's so many layers to it. And once we pull that apart, is that dynamic healthy and things like that, whatever. But I think what happens is then we think, oh, I need to look for something that's perfect, which doesn't exist. So to me, a healthy relationship dynamic is going to be in the gray. It's going to be in the middle. It's going to be in the juice. Yep. And it's where are your values at with that? What did you see growing up?
Exactly.
What are you looking for? What are the patterns in your friendships and your romantic partnerships where you work? And that's, to me, how you can differentiate if this is healthy or not, like a healthy dynamic, if that makes sense.
Absolutely does make sense. And that flows perfectly into my thinking of, all right, let's bust some myths a bit. It's been a thing we've talked about in other episodes. And I do think we sometimes live in some illusions, right? Or disillusions of what relationships could be, should be. We think they should be perfect. And I think the first relationship myth is that healthy relationships should be easy.
Yeah.
Do you hear that? Do you feel that?
I do. That's where I think that perfection Yeah, and sometimes when we've been in a ton of bad relationships or connections, but then we get that euphoric feeling with the next person, it's like we put them on a pedestal, which is not good. So oftentimes I try to teach people that first 3 to 6 months, chemically, you're going wild. Like
releasing all of the dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin.
Yeah, heck yeah. And so it's never going to go back to that. But so try to enjoy that first 3 to 6 months. And then typically what they say is that we know somebody at about a year and a half mark.
Sure.
That's when it gets real, is what I would say. So I like to tell my clients, let's go slow to go fast.
Yeah.
And let's just count flags. Because listen, the first 3 to 6 months are supposed to be good. And if it's not good, what does that tell you?
Yeah.
And I think the counting of flags is a good way. So let's just count a flag. Okay, well, how did that make you feel? Is it a red flag, a yellow flag, or a green flag? And then let's look at how many piles of that we have after these kind of benchmarkers. So it gives people that visual context too, and then can help us navigate. But you still make your own choices.
Yeah.
If you're going to follow that pile of red, that's okay, but just be aware of those pieces. So I think a healthy relationship is hard work.
Yeah.
And to me, it's really building that foundation. So the DBT house, which has been on, we talked about that on
the Red Couch
Rebels.
Yep.
I go back to that. I do that with every client, and I think about, did we build that foundation? And those are where our values start before we start building the house.
Yeah.
And to me, if you've built a solid foundation with somebody, then even when something falls off the house, you can go back, you repair that thing that fell off instead of having to bulldoze the house and then start over, if that makes sense.
That makes complete sense. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's interesting. We'll probably have an episode a bit about your new book, Masking, sometime soon here. But it's interesting to think about. When we're younger, I think we do wear a lot of masks. And so what does it mean after that year and a half to 3 years to 5 years, right?
Yeah.
To realize, okay, I've been wearing this mask in my relationships. So I think coming back to that house and saying, all right, we can pull back some of those bricks, rebuild.
Yep.
It just takes work.
Yeah.
It takes mutual work.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot. And if your values align and you've built that foundation, to me, you can get through a lot of things, because no matter what, life is coming at you. You're getting obstacles thrown at you. You're getting loss, grief, like everything.
The journey of life.
Yeah. And so whether that's friendships, family, romantic, when you have people around you that are healthy, that aren't just telling you what you want to hear, but really want to see you succeed, you're going to build that resiliency to move through that house and life a little bit easier. And when you don't have those things, right, and the people around you aren't helping, it can very much isolate you, which keeps you behind that door of the DBT house.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think part of it too is as I've gotten older is realizing, and part of it is just my background, my stories, my shit, essentially.
We're always, listen, we're the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's play that song. It's me.
Yes.
I'm not going to sing on the podcast. Don't worry. To what I was saying before I started singing was realizing that conflict is okay.
Yes.
Like my relationship with conflict really prevented growth in some of my relationships.
Absolutely.
And has unfortunately ended some relationships.
Absolutely.
And so coming at it with newer perspective or more wisdom.
Yeah.
Realizing that conflict does not have to be a bad thing.
No, it's actually the key to a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
It's learning how to fight, not physically fight, but learning how to have conflict and to disagree and compromise and all of the things. Exactly.
Repair.
And come back to the table. Absolutely. It teaches you all of those things. Yeah, this is why I would say definitely early on in relationships, I was definitely more of an avoidant. Okay, catch you later. And really didn't take the time to do those things.
So as we think about what you just said, younger habits and patterns, your reference to avoidant, do you want to just touch on a bit about attachment styles? You don't have to do a deep dive, but for those that maybe aren't aware of what they are, just high level.
Yeah. So your attachment style was created early on in life. It can change throughout your lifetime. The objective is to have a secure attachment. Woo, that sounds beautiful and lovely. Right. But that's really the core of it is that nature and nurture piece and what you saw. How did the people around you or the trusted people around you show connection in relationship. And if it was a secure attachment and quote unquote healthy, you'll often recreate that. If it was anxious or avoidant, you'll recreate some of those things. So on a conscious and an unconscious level, we recreate what we know.
Yeah.
But it can always change and it can always evolve. That's the cool thing about healing with that. So it's really how you attach to people is the core of it.
So when things get tough, do you run?
Yeah.
Or do you chase? And that's super simplifying it, right? There's a lot under the surface and different dynamics that people bring to it. But yeah, I think that's helpful. And there's a ton of information out there. And we'll have to triple check if it is in your book. I don't have your books with me today.
I'm pretty sure it is. I forget.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it is. But yeah, there's assessments you can take out there. It's a really great place to start if you're looking at relationships and figuring out how you attach to them. Yeah, it's great.
You can come at it with compassion, right? That takes time and attention and support oftentimes as well.
For sure.
But there doesn't have to be judgment in it because it is something that is oftentimes unconsciously woven into us or nurtured just based on our life experience.
Well, and I also think your brain doesn't develop fully until 25 to 27.
Yeah.
So I always just blame it on, I didn't have a developed brain at that time.
Yeah.
But that's where you have to give yourself grace. You didn't know. You were recreating what you knew. With healing, it gives you an opportunity to change that if you want to.
Absolutely.
And looking at how you connect to people is a great place to start.
Yeah. So in a similar but different vein, we've talked about it in different ways on this podcast and others, the nervous system and how that can really influence connection. Do you want to speak just a little bit to that as well?
Yeah. So nervous systems, I will say check in with your body when it comes to a relationship. Okay. And if you feel like you're walking on eggshells every time you're around somebody, what kind of flag is that? That might be a red flag, right?
Yeah.
Or if it starts as yellow, why? And then does it turn to a different color? So to me, I think the more you check in with your body, because your body is always signaling to you, it's, are you listening or are you aware that you can listen? And then once you have, you get to make a choice. You either get to keep doing the same thing that you want to do, or you can make a different choice. And either way, it's okay. From that perspective, how do you feel around that person? Does it uplift you? Does it constantly bring you down? Do you not even remember the interactions? Your body is your biggest cue, which is your nervous system.
Absolutely.
But if you don't want to go that route, how does it feel to hang out or be around so-and-so?
Yeah. Yeah. I love bringing it back to that embodiment and that kind of psychological sense of safety in the body, right?
Yeah.
Are you wanting to turtle and hide, or are you wanting to fight? Again, those are two extremes, and there's a lot of in between components there. But yeah, our bodies definitely know the difference when our brain can rationalize and sometimes forget different things or just push things down or push things away.
And if you're around somebody and you can't remember conversations, or you're walking away feeling this way and it keeps happening over and over, your brain is trying to protect you. Why do you think that is?
Yeah.
And so it's just a nice thing to look at, and it's a resource that we have right on hand that's with us 24/7. It's just a great place to start.
Yeah. All of this is a really solid reminder that everything can feel so complex, right? So many systems and so many dynamics, nervous system, attachment styles, stuff we grew up with, all of these things that are happening within us that impact how we show up with and for other people.
And how society has conditioned us as well to believe that this is what a romantic relationship is supposed to look like. This is what you're supposed to do. This equals happiness. And so I think that can be a hard thing to differentiate sometimes too, when you're not living up to that ideal or you don't fit to that mold.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I just think that's another layer.
Absolutely. Cool. What other myths do we want to dive into? What other top ones come to mind for you?
Yeah, I think another one is having boundaries and how that can feel selfish within a relationship dynamic. But what I would say to that is having good boundaries is a form of self-respect. It's a line where you know where you stand and where you're not going to allow others to. So teaching people about boundaries is my favorite thing.
Yes.
I can be flexible. I can be all of these things, but I know where my line is, and I'm just not willing to let anybody cross that, especially when it comes to relationship dynamics. So I think people think that if you set those, than what will happen after. But then I would probably ask, is that a red flag or a green flag or a yellow flag?
I think there's so many different authors that come at it too. I was just chatting with an individual last week, I think it was, and I was saying, clear is kind. And that's a Brene Brown quote. This idea of the people that are very clear and intentional about what is okay and what is not okay in relationships. Sometimes it can feel like, oh, that feels too much or too rigid, where it's no, that clarity can be a really great way to understand and,
For sure.
and to create moments of connection versus moments of resentment because you were hoping they were reading your mind.
Yep.
My God, have I felt that way.
Yes. Yep.
Where it's, I want you to read my mind. You should know who I am by now. Nobody can read your freaking mind.
Yes. Yeah. And I think I've learned this one too, because I was just like, oh, everybody's your friend. And no, everybody has different intentions. And I think the more I learn that, the better I get with it. And then I can be more decisive and who I'm going to give my energy to. Because I just thought you were just supposed to give it to everyone. Oh, they're just your friend, or this is how it's supposed to go. But then you lose your sense of identity along the way. And then there could be people pleasing tendencies in there. You know what I mean? Like it's all those pieces. But yeah, once you have those boundaries and you start to feel it, it feels really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Can feel very empowering versus out of a place of lack. What if they leave? Completely flipped. And that said, I know people do struggle with boundaries, so we're not trying to oversimplify it, but saying it is important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What about this idea of I need to fix myself or heal myself before I can experience great friendship or great love in a romantic sense or really feel connected to my family?
Yeah. It's a journey, and I don't think we're ever fully healed. But I do think as you heal, the relationship dynamics and things like that will change. And that can be a scary thing as people start their healing journey and recognize some of that your relationships do change because what you put up with before, you might not put up with anymore. And that's a reality. But sometimes that to me can be used as an excuse not to start. Yeah. And so I would just start small then, right? Yeah. And start, what does loving yourself look like? What does that actually mean? What's our end date with that? How will we know we've achieved it when we're there? Try to take it and deconstruct it and start a little bit smaller. But if you keep that mentality, you'll probably never start.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing to acknowledge. Because I've been there in different ways. We need to be feeling this way before I can have this conversation, or I need to be feeling this way. And not discounting feeling regulated before you go into a healthy conflict conversation. But that idea of I need to fix myself or I need to be healed in order to experience love is a bit of an illusion. Constantly healing. We're constantly growing. And so if you find yourself saying that to yourself, I think just acknowledge, okay, what maybe are you afraid of? And I'm saying this from my own personal, I'm not a therapist by any means. So it's what I've said to myself in different ways. And I have experienced significant healing in relationship as well. So that can be a huge part of your journey too.
Yeah. I think another myth is that people internalize, why do I keep having the same patterns within my relationships?
Yeah, something wrong with me.
Yeah, what's wrong with me and what do I keep attracting? Yeah. Why? And so with that, I try to deconstruct that narrative as well. And what are you telling yourself? It's not necessarily that you are, but in some ways you are. So what are those pieces that we can work through? And what boundaries, because what are your standards within the relationship? And do you keep overstepping that boundary? Then makes you feel like this. And then the same thing keeps happening over and over. Yeah. And maybe it's all you've known. Maybe it's all you've seen. And that's okay. Yep. And if you want to stay there, that's okay. But what other areas can we help you survive that environment then? Exactly. But that's one too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know in all of the conversations we've had, you're a huge proponent of values, right? So looking at boundaries, but then also coming back into those foundational, what are our shared values and what can we align on there? And definitely take it away from something's wrong with me to what is that bridge between us that can connect us, right? It's great. There's so much here that is hard to encapsulate in one conversation on a podcast. There's a lot of resources, a lot of tools. I do want to, so we're not on a 5-hour podcast here. I do want to come around to maybe some top relationship skills. We've got these myths that we've talked through, and they're not always easily busted in reality in our day-to-day lives. But I do think looking at skills we can develop through different tools, through different resources are really important. Whether it's your human lived experience or your lens as a therapist, what would you say are some top skills that you guide people through or would recommend people look at improving and practicing in their life?
Yeah. When it comes to relationships, learning how to fight.
Learning how to come at conflict
that's
in a healthy way.
How do we set the table, right? Communication. So knowing what your communication style is going to be huge. Knowing your attachment style is going to be huge. Your values. And I just think about like also flexibility or adaptability within the relationship too, because you're going to change. And I am not the same person that I was maybe even yesterday, right? But when I look at the decades throughout the years, wow, an evolution, which is what's supposed to happen. So that's another key piece. Are we evolving together or are we stagnant in one direction? So those would be like my overarching ones.
Yeah. Those fit what we've been talking about quite a bit. Communication, 100%. Boundary setting, obviously, you've been highlighting already. And that comes back to knowing yourself, knowing your values, getting clear internally and communicating that. So they're all really connected. Is there a skill tied to emotional maturity? I myself even have been focusing on, okay, how can I become more and more emotionally mature in all of my relationships? So would you consider that a skill, or maybe it's more self-awareness?
Yeah, I do think it's that self-awareness piece and what you're bringing to. So it's easy to be like, I shouldn't say it's easy. I want this in a friendship. I want this in a relationship. I want this in a family dynamic. Okay, but how are you showing up to that too? And if you find that you need to be more emotionally regulated, want to do those things, then I think it is that reflection on how you're going to do that, and then reflecting on maybe why you haven't gotten there yet.
There's a lot of skills woven into that. I think it is tied to self-awareness and being able to regulate your emotions. Realizing like, okay, it is healthy to be angry. It is healthy to be sad. And if you hold on to that emotion for hours and have it impact how you show up in relationship, that's maybe not the healthiest way to show up. And again, there's so many different dynamics. So I'm not putting any judgment to that. Like looking at the patterns and how you show up and why you show up, right? There's a lot to consider. So yeah, the self-awareness to that is important. And a lot of what I've been seeing and what I've been working on myself is just owning my shit, right? If I am human, in which I am, and all of us are, I believe. If we screw up, which we will, or if we hurt each other at some point, which inevitably it happens in life, just saying, okay, I did this and I'm sorry, to that point of apology. And it can take a lot to be vulnerable and be courageous and to say, I messed up. And
I shouldn't have said that how I said it. My tone was off. I think it's a skill when we teach people walk away for 15 minutes, right? But preset the table so that your partner knows or your family member knows that like that's how you need to process. So sometimes I think with the table setting, it's about preparing the table before so that we know where some of those things are, coming up with a code word. This is all the hard stuff, but this is the good stuff. And this is what leads to a healthy dynamic. So when you're in a relationship and you keep getting told over and over again that maybe you're not good enough or you're not doing this good enough, how do you respond to that? Do you shut down? Are you willing to have that courageous conversation? And then when you have that courageous conversation, is the person that's doing that to you willing to have that too? That's all an answer. So everything is an answer.
It's a flag of some sort.
It is. And so it really comes down to what are you going to do with it? And if that is one flag that you think you can handle and all the other ones are good, that's okay too. But yes, it's really looking at this stuff and practicing it, which again, we don't have enough education on these things.
Yeah. I feel like we need a relationship 101 class.
Yes.
But then again, if you had that in high school,
We just would
or
have joked
college,
about it.
yeah, like how if your brain's not developed, you're just gonna be like, well, whatever. So
Exactly. But if we lived in a culture where it was shown as like what actually healthy is, maybe we'd have a better idea of what that might actually look like. But
Yeah.
otherwise, we're typically only learning within our households and our family dynamic.
Yeah. And it's hard. We don't want to put any judgment or any blame, but at the same time, a lot of people are doing the best they can with what they know, with what they've experienced. And that doesn't always validate or justify their actions either, but it's a learning, a lens at which to look at. And all of this, I guess, if we come back around, because there's so many skills. Again, we could be here talking about myths, talking about relationship dynamics, talking relationship skills. We could be here forever, but really coming back around, what we hope you walk away with after listening to this is the importance of relationship on our whole person wellness. It's not just mental, it's not just psychological, it is emotional, it's physical. It all comes back to impact, whether that's chronic stress that shows up. And we've talked about that mind-body connection. It can show up as digestive issues, and that's perhaps anxiety, right? Or inflammation, or there's so many different dynamics that can come back to our physical body.
Yes. So if you're in a romantic relationship and you're fighting every single morning and then you go into work, that's going to show up, right? Within those next connections. If you have an enjoyable morning every morning and you come into work, that is going to influence those connections. If once a week you get into, or multiple times a week, you get into a blowout argument with someone in your family, that's going to affect. There's a systemic consequence to every interaction. And the better boundaries you have, the more you won't be as influenced, or I'm not going to tolerate that.
The more we can communicate, the more we can, they're all so connected, right? Being aware of patterns, making sure we know how to regulate. So we show up in a mature, compassionate for self, but compassionate for others.
Right.
Yeah. To be able to set those boundaries, communicate, all of the things.
And accountability is healing. So even if you're fighting with your partner once a week or whatever that looks like, coming back to the table and saying, listen, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said that in that way. I won't do that again. Just having that can also be very healing. And it doesn't mean perfection.
Yeah, because you're probably going to do it again. Let's be real.
Yeah. But
from my own experience, I will do it again.
But hopefully the fight is shorter. It's less intense. But some people in very unhealthy dynamics, they're just reliving this over and over. So it gets really hard to break that cycle.
Yeah.
But starting small is a good way to do that too.
Starting small, realizing it's not me against you. It can be us against the challenge, the pattern, and how can we support each other versus you always do this.
Exactly.
How can I support you when this happens?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a naturally, believe it or not, reactive individual, but I'm very emotionally regulated now. But to me, if I say something out of character, out of tune, and I hurt somebody, that guilt and that shame, it feels like it's a wet blanket on me that I can't get off. So to me, I would rather stay regulated, in the moment, even though I could be fire hot red. And I give myself a boundary. So I give myself 3 days.
Sure.
Okay. And I will think through every scenario possible, good, bad, or ugly. What I want to say, what I want to do, what could happen. I really am playing it out in my head because I'm a visual person.
Yeah.
But if I'm not thinking about it by day 3, then I don't need to take action.
Yeah.
And if I'm still thinking on it on day 2, what's left of it? So I give myself time to process it for my nervous system. And this is where I think people get confused about emotional regulation is you still feel the emotions.
Yeah.
Actually, you probably feel them sometimes more intense because you're not taking that action.
You're not diluting them with time.
Exactly. But I cannot stand feeling guilty and shameful for something that I could have controlled. And I don't want to make someone else feel that way. So I do everything I possibly can to stay as regulated as possible. But that was also taught through experience, right?
Absolutely.
So
I love that reminder. It's one of those things that I've heard over the years and I've done it in different ways. Will this matter in 3 days?
Yeah.
Will this matter in a week? Will this matter in a month? Will it matter in 6 months, a year? And how much of it are you going to let ruminate within you, or do you need to have that conversation?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, why do you have to be the one to get the last word in? What is it? What do you need about that? Why do you have to act in this way? Why are you, why are you slamming doors? Why are we talking down to somebody? Why are we raising our voice in the first place? Right? Is that necessary? So it's just looking at all of those things.
Good stuff. Good stuff. The one thing that I want to talk about before we wrap is one of the things that we haven't really named, but I think is sometimes a huge starting point. And we subtly referenced it, but the relationship with self and all of the dynamics and what we're talking about with looking at patterns and things that we experienced, things that we saw growing up. All of that does influence our relationship with self and how we show up in our friendships, with our family, with our coworkers, with our romantic relationships. What would you highlight in that regard?
That we are the problem, not
Coming back to that. Yeah.
It is. It's our world, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that those other people don't deserve, it's not invalidating how you feel, because your reality is your reality. Their reality is theirs.
Yeah.
But somehow in the middle, I would go back to the bubble of control. What do we have control over? Our actions, our words, our responses, our behaviors. What's outside of our control? Everything else.
Yeah.
So when it comes to a relationship dynamic, although those things are probably real, I'm not discrediting that, good, bad, or ugly, what are you going to do about it? And how do you want to show up to that? Do you feel this is your only option? Do you enjoy it? Because the other thing I will tell you is that we get very comfortable in chaos.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's another thing to deconstruct with that. So the more you know about yourself, literally, that this is how I show up to friendships, relationships, work, the better you're going to be able to understand your role in what is happening.
Yeah, in that chaos, in those patterns.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
To me, knowing yourself is the best and the biggest piece.
Yeah.
How to get there is part of the unmasking or the peeling process.
Yeah. All of the things we've been talking about, owning your stuff.
Yep.
Looking at patterns, looking at boundary needs. Yeah. 100%.
Sure.
I keep referencing book quotes, but the idea of if you want to change the world, change yourself first.
Yes.
Like that is everything that you're saying. Like, what can you control?
Yeah. It really comes down to that. And there's power in it. And then there's also, what do I do with that? But that's really where it starts. That's where it ends.
Yeah.
And if there's that inkling within you of wanting to just show up better, which hopefully we always want to improve those dynamics, I think that's a really good place to start. And just being reflective. And does this feel good to me? Did that dynamic feel good to me? Should I have said something better? So maybe I do need to come back to the table and apologize. And it's oftentimes that other person might not even remember it. Even with clients, what I take out of session is completely different what they take out of session some of the time. But starting with yourself is really the only place to start.
Yeah.
And then learning the tools along the way to navigate that.
Yeah. I think, again, not to oversimplify, but at the end of the day, we're all really just looking to be known, to be understood, to be loved.
We're here for connection.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
We are here to connect with one another in a healthy way. You and I are connecting right now. We're in a room together. We're talking about things that we're passionate about. How cool is that?
Yeah.
How cool that we've created a space that we can do that.
Right.
There's power in that. And maybe somebody else doesn't see it that way, but I do. And I think it's beautiful. And I love doing this with you. Wouldn't want to change it. And so to me, that's a healthy dynamic that we are building. Now, do we get along all of the time, or do we agree on everything all of the time? Or you might want it one way, I might. That's healthy.
Absolutely.
That's conflict.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jenny tells me I can't use filters on friggin' pictures because it's off brand. Dang, girl, sometimes a good filter is like all that you need.
I know.
Right?
I know.
But it's not like Jenny and I are punching each other in the face about it or yelling at each other. I respect that that's how it goes, but I'm going to make side comments about it. Okay.
Yep.
And then I made her take a filtered picture with me and I posted it.
That's fine. Exactly.
But that's a healthy interaction. And where I guess in an unhealthy dynamic, I could be like, Jenny, this is what I want and it's how we're doing it. And how would that make her feel? And how would that make me feel?
Put your foot down or gossiping. Yeah. No, thank you.
But instead, so I think that's an example of conflict that could go totally different directions, but neither of us are willing to do that because, again, I think we're emotionally mature enough. And I'm like, okay, I guess I get it. And I think that's part of it too. I don't have to like it to understand it.
Absolutely.
And to know that you're in your arena and you're saying, this is marketing, this is branding, and I'm off brand over here. But I think that's mature and that's compromise. And that's really what we're all trying to do here. And we are bred for connection.
We are 100%. It's where we can heal. It's where we can experience love.
Yeah. And then how are we teaching, if you have kids or you're around younger people, how are we teaching them to connect with one another too? I think that can be an indicator.
Absolutely. Yeah. So starting with yourself.
Yeah.
Because that is so much of the blueprint of how we teach others how to treat us and how we teach those in our lives that are children, younger individuals. What is relationship? What are these dynamics? So it's so important.
And I think when I was younger too, and I think it was about like the quantity of people around you. And now I really just feel like it's the quality. So are they going to get this stage of the journey? That's another important piece, is look at the quality of the people around you. And you're like the top 5 people. So does that fill your morals and your values? And does that fill your cup?
Yeah. Yeah. I think those are really great takeaways as we wrap.
And healthy is not perfect.
Yep.
It's in the gray.
Yeah. And asking yourself too, what is your relationship with yourself right now? I saw a really great reel the other day, and the individual was without words, just answer with a or a And I really loved it because how often do we overthink certain things, right? And they started out with a, are you hungry? Are you thirsty? It's the silly things, right?
Sure.
So does this person make you feel good or safe, or how do you feel comfortable in your body right now? Do you feel understood by yourself? Do you feel like there's so many different questions, right?
Yeah.
But instead of overthinking it, the or
Yes, I love that. And it just made me think of when people show you who they are, believe them the first time around.
Yeah.
If I would have followed that growing up, and I'm still trying to follow it now, but I think that's really important because people's patterns, unless they are actually doing the healing work, are going to stay the same.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes to, I'm not into gossiping either, because once that starts, they're talking to you about it. They're talking to 5 other people about it too. And you're going to be in that one, right? Yeah. And you can break some of those things.
100%.
For sure.
It is hard, but it is so worth it.
Yes. Yes.
Because relationships are not separate from our whole person well-being or our physical health. It is instrumental. It is foundational, coming back to that DBT house, right?
Yes.
And we can figure out how to pull from the Red Couch Rebels podcast and put it as part of the blog on the Into the Woods website.
We're doing it. I just made an executive decision.
Will do it.
All right.
Yes, absolutely. And when you invest in healthier relationships and when you're doing the work, it's not just improving your emotional life, it's improving all of the aspects, the quality of your life. And I know that is a huge piece of what you speak to, and it's a huge piece of what Katie has spoken to, really wanting to help people improve their quality of life.
Absolutely.
Energizing in all aspects.
Yeah.
So awesome. Thank you so much for this conversation, Kaitlyn. I know we could keep going, and we each have our own bags, right? The stuff that we carry, but I hope everybody was able to come at it and take a little bit of something away for themselves, for their relationships. Healing does not have to happen alone either.
No.
So if there is anything that Into the Woods can do to support, whether that be a future topic or giving us a call for some therapy or coaching, there's so many different things that can be supportive. So you are not alone. And until next time,
be well, be still, and become.
If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review us. We'd also love to connect with you. Reach out at info@intothewoodsjourney.com or visit our website at www.intothewoodsjourney.com to explore your path to wellness. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for listening.